So, folks, I'm here again to present to you guys another wonderful call in to the Transatlantic Call In Show. This is a show I've been a co host on now for a couple months, and I'm really enjoying it. It's a show where people can call in and ask questions about trans people, trans rights, different aspects of transness, if you will, because not everyone knows a trans person and not everyone gets a chance to, ask whatever questions are on their mind. It is kind of an ask anything type of show about trans people. So check that out. This was with Josie Caballero. Go check out Josie's work. She's running for office. Very, very cool stuff. But also, folks, go check out The Line, which is the network that hosts this show, the Transatlantic Call-In Show. Go check it out. There's a link down below where you can go subscribe and also look at their merch and also do their Patreon thing. Go check it out. It's cool. And also down below is a link to the wider episode where this call was from. So check that out too. And like, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to say it again at the end of the video, just letting you know, but you should like and leave a comment longer than 8 words everywhere. All right. Anyway, let's get into it. I hope you guys enjoy it. It's a great time going on this show every time. Let's do it.
So let's go and take Jacob, him, from Ohio, voted yes on the poll and believes government should respect the will of the people. So, hello, Jacob. Welcome to the line. You are live. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you guys?
I'm doing
sorry, I don't
well.
know how to operate in this world, but
No, it's fine.
It's all
No, you
good.
you just have to interact like a human, and that's how it
okay.
goes. So you're doing great.
Okay. Cool. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
yeah. So,
Uh,
Jacob, tell us
yeah,
about it.
so this may get philosophical and this may get a little weird, so if I'm going too far too fast, just let me know. But I think the phrasing of the word should the state be able to, I think is the thing that I more so balked at with the vote, in that we live in a government that would suggest that we acknowledge and accept the majority vote as for moral or perceived moral issues in where we are. And so
Mhm.
when we say like the state cannot ban this, we are then overriding the state with some other normative ought that we have not yet justified. And
Mhm.
so that was more so my challenge to voting yes, is that I think they should be able to ban that, but not for the reason of it's wrong, but because we respect the majority vote. So unless I'm mistaken, we may agree on this.
So yes and no. So there is lines that should be drawn when it comes to the ability for human rights, right? So
But
when we're
but
talking
where are you drawing those from?
Constitution. So when you look at the US Constitution, like it's pretty clear that equality is the goal, right? You want to allow people to live and have equality. So for example, when we think about the ending of
Mm-hmm.
slavery, things like that, those were all constitutionally mandated once the Supreme Court said, "Hey, we need to follow the law here."
With
And
equality, right?
and yeah, when it comes to equality. So for me, when we are looking at these things, we think about the human rights of it all. So for example, let me ask you, Jacob, for the sports issue and generally, do you believe
hmm
that the ability to play sports is a human right?
Yes, I would believe so.
Oh, okay. So do you believe that if you believe sports is a human right, do you think it's okay for the state to be able to say to certain people that they're not allowed to play sports?
No, that would be incorrect.
Right. So even if the will of the people said that we should limit certain people's access to sports, that would be kind of going against the will of the Constitution of wanting to promote equality and human rights across the board.
Perfect. Okay, yes, that connects the dots for me then, is that we're not appealing to anything higher, but we're appealing to, historically speaking, the foundation of the country and its position as rights. I mean, I guess the only debate then at that point would be whether playing sports is a right. That seems like a weird sentence to say. I'm not sure how to justify that in any sort of semantic, but I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess also are you making the argument, Jacob, that just an abstract idea of a country or like a state could like theoretically just do whatever it wants, or are you arguing in the context of
As
like
in, like,
America, the United
we're a
States?
yeah, we're like a representative, democratic, what do they call it? Democratic representative, or representative democracy, where we vote up the people that we think represent us, and then they pass those things through because of the stances that they take on those things, right? And so, theoretically, and again, the point of the Constitution is an excellent point to counteract this, but the point being that, if the people voted up somebody that they approved of that legislation and they pass it through, then that would be something that everybody would have to respect, right? Just as much as to the chagrin of transgender people of banning these things, it's much of the chagrin of fundamentalist theists that it isn't, right? And we have to play this game together to work as a country.
I mean, I think when you have like a pretty good example of, for example, a democracy passing unjust laws in the form of like Jim Crow, and then you have like the civil rights movement, deliberately violating those laws and describing them as unjust laws in order to provoke like a social, like legal change in the country, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
yeah, a country can make any number of laws, but then we start getting into like a question of, are those laws just? Are those laws something that should be respected? And I think that brings
Right,
us
and
into
I
like
guess
a very
go ahead.
different
I
territory.
apologize. Hmm. I like, and I guess this is more an establishment of a country question of like, what do we believe as morally correct or incorrect, right? And this is kind of the point I was kind of going for, is that what moral system are you operating in that would suggest that, if I have a different belief on the right to play sports, would compel me to agree with you in that position? Or are you arguing more so from the American side of this, of the Constitution and what is present in the Constitution as, as the beginning document, and then the rules that we continue to break as a country moving forward?
Yeah, and so I do like the way you're framing this because, I'm somebody who I got my political science degree with an expertise in American politics and philosophy, for example. So
Hmm.
that the
Hmm.
I love talking about the philosophy of American politics because I actually read most of the books that the founding fathers read when it came to like philosophy and what is liberty and all of the different things that exist inside from Hegel to Jeremy Bentham to all of the
Yep.
folks. And so when we are looking at the government and the way that the founding fathers constructed it, there's a reason why we have the checks and balances system. So we have when the system works, right? I'm going to say when it works the way
Yeah.
it's supposed to, right? The legislative would pass a law, the executive would sign that law, and then the courts can then review that law once they get sued, right? So like a
Right.
person says, hey, this is a violation of my human rights, then they have the opportunity to take it to the law of the land, which would be the Supreme Court, and or the
Hmm.
people who adjudicate the law of the land, I apologize. They would be able to then say, yes, this violates your human rights and dignity, and we now
Hmm.
need to change the law to make sure that we actually respect that human dignity and laws. Now, we've seen throughout history this hasn't worked a lot of times. So we have the awful, Dred Scott decisions, and we've had,
Yeah.
when the Supreme Court said that you could intern Japanese people, the Supreme
Yeah.
Court has, currently saying that the president has absolute immunity. Like, we have these situations where our governmental system doesn't work, and then the will of the people then have the First Amendment right to protest their grievances to the law of the land, to then move their legislators to then enact new policy and new law to be able to change the way that we move through our governmental system. Now, this is
Right.
the thing about American politics. It's very sloppy and it's very difficult to
Absolutely.
because democracy is sloppy. It's not a perfect system. We are seeing the fruits of that currently in our American government. Like, we didn't get here overnight. It took decades for where we
Right.
are right now currently in our government, and now it's up to the people to now air their grievances and protest and make sure that we have the lawmakers change the laws to make sure that things will be followed. And
Right.
so in these situations with the school case right now currently with just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, day before yesterday, the Supreme Court had their hearing about this particular case about transports. Now,
Hmm.
I believe that they're going to rule in favor of the state's ability to ban kids from sports. And it's
Hmm.
going to be a very, very sad day in American history yet again that we are not erring on the side of human values and the morality of what we supposed to stand for as Americans. That doesn't mean we give up, right? We have to continue to stand up and say that this is wrong, and then try to elect better leaders to enact the will of the people that will follow the letter of the Constitution more accurately to be able to get these things happening. Now, could this take a decade? Yes. Could this take 2 decades? Yes. But it doesn't mean that it won't eventually get there. So when you ask the question, where does our morality come from? Unfortunately, it comes from the will of the people to put an end to things. We literally fought a civil war to end the atrocity of slavery because the government couldn't agree on what it needed to do. And people literally picked up arms to fight for a better union. And
But
that's what we had to do.
one challenge to that though is that if the government defines our morality, then why are we challenging anything the government produces? It seems like we are valuing something higher than the government and holding the government standard to that.
I don't think human rights should be higher than the government, right? Like, wouldn't you agree with
But
that?
where do we value that then, right? Well, yeah, I absolutely agree with that. But where is that like defined? Are we
Well,
talking
it's
like are you guys moral realists?
Well, okay, so that's a completely different conversation. So, for
I know
example,
that's
I'll
what I'm
ask
saying. I
you.
think it might get a
No,
little
no,
too
no,
philosophical.
and I'm
Too
okay.
much,
I'm okay with
maybe.
this, right? I love philosophy. But Jacob, I'll ask you this question: Have you ever murdered anybody?
No, that's really
Why?
personal, but no, I haven't.
I know. Well, I took a risk there. I took a big risk.
What if you said
But
That
why?
totally
yes?
sucks.
But Jacob, why?
Because that's not a world that I want to live in. If I was capable of murdering somebody for an unjustified cause, then I would be inviting a world where somebody could murder me or people I love with an
So you're
unjustified cause.
taking a
I base my
Kantian
morality
approach.
in reason. Yeah.
So it's more of a Kantian philosophy that if you do something wrong and everybody does something wrong, then that would create a terrible world.
Golden rule, platinum rule, yes.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
essentially
right,
we get
right.
the world we ask for.
The moral imperative, right? Like the categorical imperative
Hmm.
that basically Immanuel Kant kind of basically said,
Yep.
right, in that
Yep.
in that
You nailed it.
framework.
Hmm.
But that doesn't come from any higher power. That just comes from the social contract of living into society, right?
Ish. I mean, can the social society contract be wrong?
It can be. Yeah, absolutely. Wars have been fought
Then we
for
would
it,
be
right?
appealing for something higher. But then we'd be appealing something higher than that.
I think that when we talk about living in a just society, if you want to go into Kant, and now I'm going to get really into philosophy here, Kant
Here
would
we go.
say that, yeah, right. Kant would say that you have the citizen self and then you have your individual self. Right.
Hmm.
Like,
Hmm.
so, the citizen self is you driving the speed limit and, making sure that you follow the laws as you walk through the society because that is your citizen self. But maybe your personal
Right.
self would love to just drive as fast as you want, drive on the sidewalks, whatever, but you don't do that, even
Right.
though it may get you there faster. But you don't do that because of your citizen self. And you could even take it a step further that if you did drive on the sidewalk and the cop stopped you and then you said put your hands out and say arrest me, your citizen self is overriding your individual self because your individual self wouldn't want to be arrested. Yet when you put your hands out saying, yeah, I did the broken the law, arrest me, you are more, your higher power is your citizen self. And most people live in society with the idea that your citizen self has higher priority than your
Right.
individual self, right?
I'm
And
wondering if
so
there's a way we could even just shortcut this because we're
yeah,
abstracting really
of
high
course.
up and above. But I really loved your
Yes.
comment before was that we are founded on structure of the Constitution. We want equality for everybody as best as we could possibly define. And so
Yes.
if we're going to stay consistent even within the system or model, we don't need to appeal to anything higher. To the sake of like, is playing sports a right? Well, yes, any normal human being would just say that. Well, we need everybody to be free because that's our constitution and what we do. Let's just appeal to consistency. And then, I mean, I guess if you don't value consistency, you get the world you get. But I mean, I feel like that just answers the question.
Essentially, yes, and knowing that as we progress in society, things will change, right? Like there wasn't
Right.
cars in the American founding, right? There wasn't like,
Right.
the
Exactly. Hmm.
internet, there wasn't AI, right? And these are going to be societal problems that we are going to have to deal with. And we're going to have to base
Hmm.
those on the primitive brains of humans that want equality and freedom for everyone. And that's the
Right.
beauty of the Constitution. And, call me a patriot. I do love the Constitution. And I
Hmm.
do believe that the Constitution should be amended by the people of the era. And we now live in a government that thinks opposite, or not the government, the people running government believe that the Constitution shouldn't be amended. We haven't amended the Constitution since the 80s. And if
Yeah.
we were able to open that up more and actually amend the Constitution based on the theoretical framework of what the founding fathers actually intended it to be, which is a document that is supposed to be governing the people of the era. And I say this
Right.
knowing that the founding fathers were all rich white slave owners that had property,
Right.
but even
Right.
they
Yeah.
knew that that was going to end eventually. I
Yeah.
honestly believe that the founding fathers knew that that game was going to end eventually, and they wrote it into the Constitution to allow people to eventually do that. But
I
it's
see.
sloppy.
Hmm.
It's a sloppy
Yeah.
system.
To kind of build off of just that idea, because I've been kind of quiet because I'm not big on philosophy. But the thing I would
It's
just
okay.
add is
Not
that
everybody has to be.
Yeah.
the thing I would just add on that is that I conceive of this largely as a very large ongoing conversation. Like Josie was saying, we're going to progress from here, and things are going to change, and also that none of us, I mean, very few of us, I'll say, have a very clear, coherent idea of what our like bedrock philosophy and where we get our morals actually comes
Yeah.
from. Like
Hmm.
the vast majority of people aren't sitting around reading Kant, and or like trying to figure out what the utilitarian analysis of like their moral day-to-day dealings
Yeah.
is. And it's like a huge mishmash. And so like I think that there are different places where a bunch of people grab their morals from, and you can maybe generally characterize a nation as having certain ideas, but we're having one huge conversation, and I think that just like a conversation with one-on-one with someone else, like there's gonna be disagreements, there's gonna be messiness, there's gonna be, evolution to ideas from bouncing off of each other, and
Hmm.
like I think ultimately, this is just my personal take. I think ultimately people
Mhm.
want to do right by their neighbors, and they want to be good to the people who they live in community with. And
Yep, I agree.
so I think, like, especially when we start interrogating issues of like, should trans girls play sports like with cis girls? Like, I think
Mhm.
that ultimately that conversation is being had, and I think ultimately the arc of that conversation is going to bend towards yes, and also that
Yep.
perhaps we don't need the state to weigh in on that issue because we can figure it out ourselves.
Yeah. Yep. And
Yeah,
and Jack, I
and
thank
I
you for
understand
bringing
that.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
So
and
I
Jacob,
guess.
go
Oh,
ahead,
go ahead.
please. No, go ahead. I would like
Um,
to go ahead.
I would because I know you guys got other callers and stuff like that, but I would say that you guys have convinced me of my vote being incorrect. So thank you very much for enlightening me on at least just the contrary
Yes.
in the Constitution versus what's going on right now. So first and
Yeah.
foremost, thank you for convincing me otherwise. That was very elegantly put.
Yeah.
And
Appreciate you, Jacob.
the rumors of the opposition that I have been told have been greatly exaggerated. You guys are great. Thank you so much for
Oh,
such a peaceable conversation.
Yeah,
yeah, I
thank you for being
appreciate
so
that.
delightful.
Yeah, it was a delightful call. And anytime I could talk about moral philosophy, I'm just like, yes, please, let's go, let's go. So thank
Oh
you for
yeah.
that. You intellectually stimulated me, and that makes me happy. So I appreciate
Cool.
that.
I'm
Awesome. All
glad that
right,
I could.
Jacob.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. All right, have a
Bye.
great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah, I
That
let me
was
talk about
fun.
American political modern thought. Oh, like that was my favorite class. My favorite class was modern political thought, and I was never so happy to get a B plus in my life. That class was it was a hard class. But it was like it definitely hit my GPA just a teeny bit, but I was so mad because I usually make all A's and everything, but I was like the B plus was like the top class score, and I was like, let's go. That professor was brutal, and I was like top of the class, like B plus. So like yes. Yeah, it was good stuff, good stuff.
Well, that was a wonderful call, or a very contentious call. I I'm recording this many days later, and I don't remember how that call went. Let me know how you thought that call went down in the comments, and then go click on a link down in the description below to the original episode, and also leave a comment over there. We're trying to grow this channel and that channel, so go do the things, help both channels grow. You're getting a lot of content. Go do that. Go click the buttons. You know the buttons, the ones that you click on YouTube. Go click them. And also, folks, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat Jack.